the man behind that explosive new tell-all book about the White House, defending his work this morning, dropping even more eyebrow-raising claims about President Trump. The man's name is Michael Wolff, and he insists 100% of the people around the president question his fitness for office. 100%. He even quoted one of them saying that the president is like a child, that he has a need for instant gratification. Wolff suggesting the president that he was told has lost it. The president tweeting the book is full of lies and that the author had zero access, which Wolff says is not true. CNN has the book. We've read through it, but we cannot independently confirm all of Wolff's assertions.
According to your reporting, everyone around the president, senior advisors, family members, every single one of them questions his intelligence and fitness for office.
Let me put a marker in the sand here. 100% of the people around him. The one description that everyone gave, everyone has in common, they all say he is like a child.
The president's close advisors, people around him, have noticed him repeating stories, expression for expression, you say, within a short period of time.
In a shortening period.
What are you arguing there? You say, for example, that he was at Mar-a-Lago and didn't recognize lifelong friends.
I will quote Steve Bannon. He's lost it.
Let's get reaction from someone who knows the president well, CEO and president of Newsmax Media, Chris Ruddy. Good to have you with us. What's your reaction to what you just heard?
Chris, this is just like so absurd. It's so ridiculous. So 100%, I'm around the president. I've been around him quite a bit through the past year. I met him 20 years ago. He is not psychologically unfit. He's not lost it, as he claimed. I saw the president every other day over a 10-day period during the holiday. I conversed with him numerous times. I saw him interact with people. He was remembering things. He was on point. He was following up on discussions. I brought to the golf club a well-respected New York Times reporter who had a half-hour sit-down interview with him, Michael Schmidt. Now, I don't want to speak with Michael. You should interview him. But I don't believe Michael walked out and said, this man is crazy, this man is unfit. So this is just an absurd allegation by someone who's talked to a lot of disgruntled people at the White House. I was with the president in early December. I spent about an hour and a half with him in the private residence. The conversation was terrific. He was not repeating things. Present was a medical doctor who's a mutual friend of ours. He had no belief and view that the president was mentally incompetent and unfit. This is just an absurdity, and it's really trash, actually.
Well, you've got two possibilities. One is that everyone that Wolff spoke to either told him something that isn't true, or Wolff is reporting it untruthfully. Do you believe that that's the case?
Well, look, Michael did a hit book on Rupert Murdoch. It got, even though Murdoch doesn't have a lot of fans in the media, got wide criticism. A lot of people are very suspect of the sources.
He was welcomed into this. He was welcomed into this administration, though, Chris. You know, the president can say he didn't talk to him. But you know, Chris, Michael Wolff says that's demonstrably false. But he was welcomed in, so shame on them, not on Wolff.
Yeah. Do you know who welcomed in? Steve Bannon welcomed him in because Steve thought he was going to write a positive book about Steve. He didn't. He wrote a very negative book about the president. And Reince Priebus didn't even know who he was. A lot of people outside the media world, we know who Michael Wolff is.
Right.
Most of these political folks, and the president didn't really know who he was. And the president said he never spoke to him or had very limited contact.
No, the president said he didn't speak to him about the book, and Michael Wolff says that's not true. You know, this is a trap that the president falls into very often, is that he wants to make a point, but he makes it in a way that's deceptive. You know, Wolff says he can show that he spoke to the president about this book.
You know Donald Trump for a long time, and you know one of his weaknesses is he talks to everyone. He's very candid and open. He's very unsuspecting of people. He just lets it all out. And that's been one of his strengths with the public in a lot of ways, but we also see the weaknesses where people take advantage of the situation.
Look, that's fine as a character issue, Chris. That's fine as a character issue. We all have our flaws. But when you lie about a situation, it gives credence to the other side. And if he lies about talking to the guy, now I'm going to believe the guy more because he's the one telling the truth on that issue. Let me ask you about the second possibility.
Michael Wolff is saying something. Michael Wolff is saying something, Chris, that's patently untrue. It's a lie. He says 100% of the people around the president think he's crazy and a child.
That he spoke to.
That. Yeah. But
That
what
he
I
spoke
know
to.
is Michael Wolff is a liberal elite who 100% of his friends voted for Hillary and upset about the election result, and they want to overturn the election result.
Look, you know,
That's
Chris,
what this story is really about.
I would get that. I'm not a defender of Michael Wolff, but, you know, he's come after people in the same way in my own family. So I think he's an equal opportunity guy when he's telling a story about someone. I'm not going to give you that, as well. He's just a lefty. I don't buy it. I think he does what he does, and shame on the White House for making the move to let him in if they don't like his style. But there's a second possibility, which is, okay, the president is the way you describe him in terms of his competence, his fitness, let's say. But his temperament and his situation has him overwhelmed. So he's making mistakes. He's showcasing the worst part of himself, or him at his worst. Could that be the case?
Every president makes mistakes in their first year in office. So far, let's look at the results. What are the mistakes? The stock market's record highs, consumer and business confidence record highs, massive deregulation of the economy, the lowest unemployment in modern times. And the economy is only set to go up from here.
Right,
with
but
this
could be
tax cut
apples and
bill, which is
oranges,
the most-
Chris. Could be apples and oranges because, first of all, you have to look at what happened before him that attributes to the economic situation now. And then you have to also put on top of that those could all be real despite how he is conducting himself, not because of how he is conducting himself.
So, Chris, I would recommend you read a book by a guy named Ron Kessler. He wrote it about the Secret Service, I think about 10 years ago. And he interviewed all the Secret Service agents between John Kennedy and Bill Clinton. And what you find in there is amazing stories about what the presidents and their families do behind the scenes. Most of this never makes the light of day, gets out in public. But you will see that Donald Trump's not too different than any other president in private. The problem he's had is he's had a lot of people out there that go racing to the press to say, oh, he said this privately, he said that privately. You know, if you and I had our kitchen table talk at night revealed publicly, we probably wouldn't be working for big media companies.
Yeah, I know, Chris, but you know what the difference is? He ran for
sabotage.
president of the United States. I hear you. He is not like the other people. I've been doing this a long time. Don't let the makeup fool you. I've talked to lots of different presidents and their teams. He's nothing like any of them, and that could contribute to why he falls into the holes that he does in terms of how he reacts. He has released 2 cease and desist letters.
I knew it when he was elected.
Right. But all I'm saying is you are now seeing the results of that. I'm not saying that he didn't win the election, right? I'm not saying that he wasn't recognized as such by people, but I'm saying what they voted for is now being made manifest, and that doesn't make it okay. This man has sent out 2 cease and desist requests of things as the president of the United States. You don't stop people from criticizing you. There's no sedition law in the United States anymore. You don't stop the publication of a book because you don't like it, Chris. You know that.
Yeah, but that's Donald Trump. He's
but that's
always
not
punching back. You punch him.
But that doesn't make it right,
Chris. Down.
That doesn't make it right.
They're overplaying their hand. No, I disagree. They shouldn't allow stop the publication of the book. He shouldn't be paying so much attention to Michael Wolff, frankly.
Right.
Or Steve Bannon, for that matter.
True, but he does.
And I think he's punching down. And I think he needs to break from that and focus on other things.
And that goes to my point is, can he? This is the worst of Donald Trump. I grew up around him. You know him very well. I've seen him do this time and again. He's doing it more often. He's doing it less appropriately, and it raises the question, okay, I'm sure his mind is strong. I'm sure he's one of the smartest guys in the room, as he'll say all the time. Fine. But it's all about conditions. It's about circumstance and situation. He's not used to this. And it is bringing out in him, objectively, his worst side on a regular basis. Couldn't that be a fair assessment?
Well, I think that's a fair assessment that because of all the attacks, he is going down, punching down, getting into the gutter with these guys, and he's focusing too much. I think it's generally a fair assessment with what you're saying, Chris.
But that's the distraction. That's why I say certain things are getting done despite how he's behaving. That's why the picture of this White House is not news to me, and it's not news to you, Chris. You know a lot of people are running around trying what's going on, trying to manage his emotions and trying to keep him on message and trying to get him to divorce the me from the we, to forget it. Just take it on the chin, Mr. President. It's not about you. Let's get this done. And he's not being able to do it effectively.
We have spent 48 hours talking about anonymous sources that Michael Wolff, quote unquote, has in the White House. I can't believe half the things he's saying on the president's mental condition. But if people like General Mattis, General Kelly, other people around the president with great respect are going to, Michael Pence, are going to say the president's unfit, that's a serious charge. I don't think you're hearing any of that. They wouldn't even say that off the record. They might have criticisms of the president, but you're not hearing that from any cabinet level.
Well, Michael Wolff says he is.
I think this is a lot of...
Michael Wolff says he is hearing that. And I'm not talking about 25th Amendment. I'm not talking about competence. I get what you're outlining there, that would be the threshold for triggering a real competency issue with the President of the United States. That's not my pursuit. What I'm saying is it could very well be the case, and seems to be so objectively on what I have to deal with every day, sometimes minute by minute on this show, that the President can seem overwhelmed and he can seem consumed with what things mean to him. And he focuses on that, and that is a dangerous thing to do in that position, as you know, Chris.
He doesn't take criticism easily, that's true, and he needs to improve on that. But, you know, Steve Bannon is the central source here. Steve left the White House. He was fired back in August, and he announced to the New York Times that the president was delusional, he said that the Trump presidency was over. And I say that that's completely delusional.
But the president kept in touch with him, though, Chris. And that's part of the symptomology of this, right? Ordinarily, you cut a guy like that off. You never talk to him again. That didn't happen here.
The president had very little contact with him, but Steve has a major website and is a influence in the Republican Party. I don't fault. He said the Trump presidency was over. I think it was delusional. I think Trump saw it as delusional. Obviously, the facts haven't shown that to be true. But
well, Chris, here's what I'm saying.
I don't think the president's...
I get you. You don't think that he has a fitness issue. I totally hear you. You've made the point strenuously, and it's out there for the audience to digest. Let's end on this idea. This book is not new for a lot of people, okay? These are not new perceptions of Donald Trump as a man, nor as a president. Can you say, as someone who's close to him, that you don't have any concerns about how he is conducting himself in that role?
Well, I don't have any concerns psychologically. I do think his approaches to things, I think Twitter needs to be reviewed before it goes out. I think he needs to take some of the personal attacks out of this. I think he needs to ignore people below him that are attacking him.
And what does it mean to you that he
him?
insists on not doing any of those things, despite how many fair and smart and experienced people like you tell him that?
I know it's disturbing, but he was elected by the American people doing these type of things, disturbing to people like you. I think that, he was elected. I think at the end of the day, he would prove very effective using Twitter to get elected. He sees the media attacking him all the time and feels, hey, I need to have this venue and this outlet. But I would encourage him to do this. I've advised him publicly and privately to do it that way. I think eventually he will. But he has decided to do this his way, and he is the president. He was duly elected.
Nobody says he wasn't duly elected. It's about how he does the job. And let's be very clear, Chris. Allison yells at me about this all the time.
Not everybody likes that he was
the
duly
tweeting.
elected.
I like it. It works for me. It gives me the insight into the mind of a man where usually I have to kill myself to just get a whiff of what he puts out in huge plumes of smoke and fire every day. So I like it. I use it. It benefits me in my coverage of the White House. So I don't want any of it to stop, but I'm saying how he does it could very easily work against him, and that is the portrait portrayed in this book, and it's not new to a lot of people. Chris Ruddy, last word.
Well, I think the media loves Donald Trump. I mean, ratings have soared, readership, subscriptions. 1/3 of the New York Times subscriber base has come since Trump became president. It's amazing. So I think the public elected him. The results are what he's doing for the economy and the country's security. He knows he'll be judged by that, and the public will judge him by that.